got people from Indonesia, Hong Kong, Spain, Hungary, where else? The list goes on. But glad that you could join me here tonight, today, this morning, wherever it is you are in the world. We're going to talk about networking like a pro. My name is Graham Brown. This is Up.school. If you haven't joined a webinar before, hang around for the next 35, 40 minutes. We're going to talk about networking, share some advice with you, some tips, hacks, tricks, and so on. And also how you can take this further, how you can get a copy of this presentation. You can get access to the video because I'll share with you some links tonight, some information, some books as well that may be useful for you. And hopefully from tonight, you're going to take away, if there's one thing that you can learn, it's going to be about how to network like a pro. I'll share with you my personal experience as well. Hey, but before we get started, just a couple of things. Firstly, trying out a new camera angle today. Used to have the HD camera up there, but it was a bit slow, a bit of lag. Hopefully now there's less lag when I talk to you. So I'm not talking and then my mouth saying something else. So let me know in the chat box if that works for you. That'd be pretty cool. Hello, everybody. Chat box is down there on the bottom left. So I'm reversed. Yeah, so the bottom left of the screen, you can see the chat box. If there's anything you want to ask, questions during the webinar, just put it into the chat box in the bottom left. What I'll do is we will have a Q&A session at the end. Okay, so all your questions as we go on in the chat box. Thank you for your feedback, Akos. Good to see you, man. Good to see you here. Yes, it was laggy before, but now we're better. Hey, look, before we get started, I just got this book. This book came through the post today, Tools of the Titans by Tim Ferriss. Look how thick this book is. Look how thick that book is. It's like I don't know, it's about 6 centimeters. Look how thick of it. Look at it. It's crazy. It's a 660 page book. 660 pages, this book by Tim Ferriss. If you don't know who Tim Ferriss is, he's the author of the 4-Hour Work Week, the 4-Hour Body, the 4-Hour Chef. You know, hugely influential author. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this book is it just came today. It's only just been published, and it's really interesting because in this book, I haven't even really started 5% of the book yet. I read about 20 pages. It's 660 pages. Look, I don't know if you can see this, but that is a list. In this book is a list of all the people that he interviewed for this book. So you've got people like, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger does the forward for this book. Arnie Schwarzenegger, James Altucher, you know, the guy who writes, famous author, Choose Yourself, Glenn Beck, the broadcaster, Kevin Costner, the actor, Jamie Foxx, the actor, Jack Dorsey, founder of Twitter, Alan de Botton, author, Seth Godin, author, Malcolm Gladwell, blah, 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 blah. They're all in here. Tools of the Titans. So far, pretty good. So basically what this book is about, Tim Ferriss has interviewed all of these people, and he's interviewed them, asked them for their tips and tricks and hacks. How have they been successful? Why are they successful? Share some of that information with us, and it's in this book. Now, the reason why I'm telling you about this is I'm not selling you a book. I don't have any relationship with this book. The reason why I'm telling you this is it's interesting. In the forward section of this book by Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is a seriously successful person, friend of Tim Ferriss as well, he says in the first few lines, this is Arnie Schwarzenegger, this is the Terminator, you know, Mr. Olympic body, etc., governor of California. This is what he says. He says, I'm not a self-made man. He says, I'm not a self-made man. And when I tell people that, people are always shocked. But I thank them for their compliment and say, I'm not a self-made man. I got a lot of help. Okay. And this is what this book is about, getting help. He talks about standing on the shoulder of giants. The reason why so many of these people are successful, including Tim Ferriss and Arnold Schwarzenegger, isn't because they were somehow super talented, which of course these people are, but that's not the reason they were successful. It's who they knew. All of these people got help along the way to become successful. All of these people got help from friends, family, mentors, people who help them along the path to become successful. So that is a really good introduction for the theme for tonight's presentation, which is how to network like a pro, like Tim Ferriss. I'm not going to talk any more about this book, but I will bring it up in future presentations. What this is about tonight: how to network like a pro, how to build your personal network so you can have access to these kind of people. Why do you need to network like a pro? So I talk about how you can network to get customers, find business partners, how you can get inspiration, how you can build your personal entrepreneurial network. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to network hard, right? You can never get comfortable here. That is the danger. If you're an entrepreneur, getting comfortable and feeling like you know enough people. If you work for somebody else, you don't need to network. You have a comfortable job. Everything is provided for you. You don't make any real decisions about your destiny. But if you're an entrepreneur, you got to network hard, because your network is your key to success. I network hard. I've had times when I've eased off the gas when it comes to networking, and I have paid the price, right? When I networked most is when I was most successful. If I look at my 20-year business history, if you draw a line, a correlation between how much networking I did and how much success I had, there's a direct correlation. And when I got successful, I started to get comfortable, I stopped networking when it all goes wrong. So let's talk about how to network. First of all, this is what people think is networking. It's standing around in these bullshit meetings where people are wearing suits and ties with like little name tags on, holding a drink and listening to stories of these people, the guy with the loudest voice, listening to this guy talk about him and his story. And it usually almost is a guy, right? You don't get women dominating conversations and boring people. Like, guys have this special ability to do it, right? That's what most people think networking is. And what I want to share with you tonight is that is not the only way to network. There are many other ways you can network. So I want to share with you. If you're tired with this kind of networking, if you don't like this kind of networking, if you feel you're not as effective as you could be with this type of networking, stick around, because I'll show you some examples of how you can network without having to go to these bullshit meetings, because that is often the only way people think that they can do it, right? And handing out business cards, come on. All right. So you go to a meeting and people hand out cards, right? But when have you ever had a long-term friendship or a trusted relationship with somebody you swap business cards with, right? It just doesn't happen. Like, handing out business cards, I believe, is a big waste of time. I have to do it because it's sort of accepted. It's what people think needs to be done in networking, right? But honestly, this is not how you network. This is sort of networking back in the 20th century. There's so many better ways of doing it. You've got to save your time and use your time effectively. Sitting around in conferences listening to people talking is not good use of your time for networking. So let's talk about, I'm going to make this short tonight because I value your time. I want to give you some really hard-hitting points about networking that you can take away. And then if you want to stick around and ask questions at the end, you feel free to do that. All right. So what I want to impress upon you at the beginning is just those 3 points, right? Going back, this is not the only way to networking. Exchanging cards is not how you build a network, and sitting around in conferences is not good use of your time, right? So let's talk about how you network like a pro. First of all, you got to get out there, right? I'll talk about getting out there in a minute, but first things first, you've got to get out there. You have to get outside of your house, your office, your co-working space, wherever it is, and you've got to get out of your comfort zone and meet people. That's the first thing. As I said, there's more than one way to network. I talk about how you can network, find a way that works for you and double down on that. The third one is don't edit yourself. The worst thing you can do is go to a networking event and bite your tongue. Right? The best thing you can do is go to a networking event and offend a few people. Right? is like that is the way to be remembered. Not by deliberately being offensive, but by telling people exactly who you are, what you're about, what your mission is. And if people don't like it, that's great. They can take a hike. But the people who love it will gravitate towards you. And to focus on daily, not monthly networking. So most people think about networking something they do once a month, but I want to share with you tonight that networking is something that you should do every day. Okay, so let's get started off. Why? It's the most effective way of growing your business. You know, if you've been in business some time, and I've been in business for 20 years, what you find is this: your best business partners, your best clients, the people who you most value in your network are people that you have met in the physical world. You've gone out, you've met these people, you've spent time with these people. And business is like friendship. If you're starting out in business, treat relationships like friendships. These people will stick around for a long, long time if you have a good friendship with them. And what you find is that you do the best business with the people who are most like you, right? That's an interesting fact, is that, you'll find that your clients resemble you in a number of ways. For example, they may be of the same age as you, but not always, or they may be similar kind of outlook or similar kind of mindset, similar kind of hobbies and so on. You'll find that over time, these two things, you and your clients, start to look a little bit more like each other. So that's why you've got to get out there and you've got to network and you've got to meet people, because there's a sort of a friendship that you can build in business, which is really valuable. If you're just having a transactional relationship with customers, a transactional relationship with business partners, not only is it not meaningful, but it doesn't last. So have a look at this bit of data before we kick off. What I want to share with you, this is a survey commissioned by Forrester. And what it says, it asks small to medium business marketers, it says, which of the following marketing tactics do you use to acquire new customers? And what's interesting here, let's start at the bottom. These are the least favored ways of getting new customers. So you've got telemarketing, right? I mean, telemarketing is so old school. I mean, I used to work in a business where I had to make 120 phone calls a day. And if you didn't make 120 phone calls a day, the boss came up and he duct taped the telephone to your head, right? That is the day, those are the days, or even those days, telemarketing wasn't that successful. So you had to do so much of it. So I know telemarketing very well. Pay-per-click advertising, direct mail, digital advertising, and I'll even put in there social marketing as well. So these are the least favored ways of getting new customers. And sometimes they're quite easy, like for example, digital advertising, social media, and so on, but they're not that effective. And they're not that effective because they are easy, right? Compare that with, at the top, personal relationships networking. 95% say that personal relationships and networking is their most favored technique for getting new customers. All right, so it works. It's a tried and tested way of getting new customers and relations. All about who you know and the relationships you have. Right. If you compare as well, if you have a look at these three points underneath, you've got trade show, industry events. Again, that's face-to-face networking. In-person events, again, face-to-face networking. Content marketing, so that's like, for example, doing podcasts and doing video, that kind of thing. And in a way, that's a form of networking, and I'll talk about how that can be a form of networking for you in this presentation. So what I want to do is focus on why these really work and also why these don't work so much. All right, so here's the problem, is that social media is not the best way to build network. It's a way of building it, but the return on investment is so low, and it gives you this feeling that you're out there doing stuff. People are retweeting you, people are liking your content, that kind of thing. But are people emailing you and saying, hey, look, what that content that you just put out there, that made a difference, that spoke to me directly, or that really struck a chord with me? That's real networking. That's the kind of networking that you need to do. You need to make a difference in people's lives. If you're just getting people to tweet stuff out there, That's not building a network in any way, shape, or form, right? If you have a look, what people said here in this survey by Citibank and GfK, what they asked was, how helpful is social networking sites such as Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn? And they asked it in the context of business and marketing and building a network and so on. 63% said not helpful at all, right? Only 3% said very helpful. So there's a problem here. Either people aren't using it properly, or they just kind of confuse activity with results. So they're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're on LinkedIn, they're trying to get customers, they're trying to get people to talk to them, they're trying to build a network, but it ain't going anywhere, right? This is the problem with social media, is that it's a direct one-to-one input. So every one unit you put into media, you get 1 unit out. So every hour you put in, you get 1 hour out of benefit, right? So you can never get a 1 to 2. You can never get that leverage which you really need to grow a network, to grow a business. And that's the problem with social media. It can just suck your time up, all right? So, I mean, I use social media. You all use social media, right? But as a way to grow a network, you got to get out there, right? You got to get out there and do what everybody else is not doing. Here's the thing, right? Because everybody else is sitting behind their computer screen trying to build a business, you got to do what other people aren't doing. So if you're running some kind of online business, I guarantee that you'll find your success offline. So if you've got an app, or you've got an online service or a website, the difference between sitting behind your computer and getting out there and meeting people is huge, right? Because one meeting, and that could be a meeting with a customer, that could be a meeting with a business partner, that could be a meeting with an investor, that could be a meeting with somebody who may give you an idea to change how you do your business. That 1 hour with that person is worth 10, maybe 100 hours sat behind the computer screen. All right. So when it comes to networking, you have to do what others won't do. And most people won't get out there into the offline analog world and do the networking. But that's where you're going to really make an impact. Okay. So point 2, there's more than one way to networking. Remember I showed you that picture of networking earlier with the guys with the tie standing around with the drinks and so on. That's one way of networking, but it may not be the most effective way of networking for you, right? So there are many other ways you can network. Here's an example of how you can network. You can write a book, right? You don't have to write a book that is 600 pages long, but you can write. If you're good at writing, write. That's a fantastic way to network. Networking is not necessarily meeting people, shaking hands, and telling people about your business. Networking is really about having a conversation with people. So you and me, right here, right now, we're networking. We're having a conversation. We're talking about networking, right? So if I create a video out of this and put this video onto YouTube, it's networking. Because what it does is it allows people to interact with me, and especially the strength of that form of content is they can do that whilst I'm sleeping, whilst I'm doing something else, whilst I'm running another video. So as we're having this conversation now, people are watching my videos, people are listening to my podcast and so on, and they're having a conversation with me about something that's relevant to them. That is a fantastic way to network, because what happens is people listen to that content, watch that content, and they email you. And they say, wow, that content was great. And you don't even know who these people are until they come out of the blue and they send you a message. So find a format that works for you and double down on that format. So find a format for networking that works for you and double down on that format. So let's say you're really good at podcasting. So you've got a good mic like this one, get yourself a good mic. Start talking about anything that's relevant to you. And people think, well, why would people listen to me? I'm not an expert. I don't have any experience. Yes, you do. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story to tell, all right? So you can share that story by podcasting. But maybe radio isn't good for you. If that's the case, use video. If that's not the case, write. If that's not the case, you can do something else. Create a blog, create ebooks, whatever it is. Take photos, share your photos on Instagram, network that way. The key is you have to create some kind of authority, right? You have to create some kind of authority because it's a much more effective way of networking. When you go to a networking event and you meet people and you shake hands and you swap cards and stuff like that, there's no authority. You're just another guy. But if you create content which talks about you and what you're really passionate about, people can listen to that content. 90% of people won't be interested in that content, but 10% will. So something I'll talk about in a minute is planting a flag. So this strategy of planting a flag as a very effective way of networking. So we'll come back to this one in a minute. We can talk about it in the Q&A if you have any questions as well. So, hey, this is what I see people do at networking events all the time is they edit themselves, right? They edit themselves. And what does editing mean? Is that you change what you say to fit in with other people. Have you done that? Have you said something? Hang on a second. I'm going to change that. I'll say it so that I don't offend this person, or I'll say it so that this person likes me more. And you may say that about your business idea. So all of you guys tonight have got business ideas, right? And you share those ideas with people. And what happens is most people edit their ideas so they don't think they're a bit wacky, they're a bit strange, they're a bit weird, a bit whatever it is. They end up moderating their ideas and what they say so they can fit in with a big group of people. But what happens is then everybody forgets you. Everybody forgets you because it's just, a very mediocre idea. What you should do when you network is give people the big, bold idea that's going to scare some people away, right? Because you want to scare people away. You want to scare away people who are going to waste your time, right? The people who only like what you do. What you want to do is attract the people who really get it, right? So what you don't want to do when you network is have to justify who you are, what you do, or what your business is, right? If you have to justify yourself to anybody, walk away. Right? Don't waste your time trying to convert these people. Don't waste your time trying to sell to the unsold, right? Instead, save your energy for people who are already sold on what you do. So let's say you have some kind of website service, right? And you tell people about the service, and some people say, "Oh, I don't get that." And then you get into kind of this discussion about trying to persuade them why it's a good idea. Waste of time. Walk away. Walk away from that person. Instead, find some people, when you tell them about your service, they're like, wow, tell me more. That sounds awesome. You want people who are also going to light your fire, right? You don't want to light yourself on fire to warm other people. That's the key. That's the mistake that entrepreneurs make. Be more like a rock star and less like a politician, right? The cool thing about rock stars is this, right? Rock stars have been around, like these guys, the Rolling Stones, have been around for many, many, many years, longer than your parents, your parents' parents. They've been around for hundreds of years, it seems, and they're making hundreds of millions of dollars every year because people love them. The interesting thing, these guys. Mick Jagger was arrested for possession of marijuana in the 1960s, right, when it was still very controversial. He has a criminal record, right? But he's one of the best-selling rock stars, best-selling artists of all time. Same with Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney has a criminal record for possession. One of the best-selling artists of all time. You look at the top 8 best-selling rock stars ever. All of them have had some kind of controversy about sex or about drugs. Okay, so you got people like Madonna, Elton John, these guys, the Beatles, etc., Led Zeppelin, etc., in the top 8. They're all there. Very, very controversial people at the end of the day. And the reason is because they're rock stars. They don't live their lives like politicians. We don't like politicians, do we? At the end of the day, nobody really likes a politician. Sure, they vote for them, but they don't really like politicians. And that's the thing. In 5 years, people forget politicians. They don't love politicians. They like them at the most, but they don't love them like they do rock stars. And that's the thing. A politician only has to win 51% of the vote to be successful, right? So a politician, in terms of networking, doesn't say anything to offend anybody else. They make sure that everything they say is checked by PR people, make sure it's not offensive, everything's double checked, and so on. So it's watered down, right? Rock stars, however, do the opposite. They don't water down their message. They don't check their message. They just get it out there. They do what the hell they like, and that's why people love them. A lot of people don't love them, but the people who love them really love them. And the people who love them is a far big enough market to survive and make hundreds of millions of dollars a year like these guys do, right? So my point is, when it comes to networking, be more like a rock star and less like a politician. Be more extreme, be more weird, embrace your weird, if you like, and don't edit your message to fit in with other people. It's tough, but when you learn to do that, you'll find you're so much happier with who you are as an entrepreneur, and you feel so much less pressure about talking about yourself or how you present yourself. I don't bother about how I dress these days when it comes to doing a webinar, because I'm confident in who I am, right? I don't wear a tie to do a webinar because it's not who I am. I posted videos online about what I wear in business and so on. It's not the person I am. I don't wear a tie. I don't wear a suit any day. But, when you go to these networking events, people dress up in suits and ties and so on. It's not them. It's not the real people. They're just being politicians. All right, last point. Focus on daily, not monthly networking. So that one meetup a month, not enough, right? It's like exercise. You can't do exercise once a month and hope to get results, can you, right? If you want to get ripped abs, if you want to get a six pack, you've got to exercise every day, right? You can't just do it once a month. You've got to do it every day, and you've got to be tough with yourself, right? If you give up for doing it just once a month, you're never going to get to where you want to get to when it comes to networking. And it's the same, right? It's the same principle as exercise, because when you stop doing it, it goes back, it falls back to normality. So the key here is, how do you network on a regular basis? And one thing you should think about doing is, as I said earlier, is about planting a flag. What kind of content can you push out there on a daily basis? Because it really does take every day for 6 months, a year, before people start coming to you, right? If you want to have ripped abs and exercise or lose weight, you can't do it in a week, right? You can't just go to one meeting and get results. Instead, you've got to do this every day, day after day, for months and months and months. And then you start to get this inbound networking. So what I get now, as a result of doing daily networking, and I publish, I've stepped it up now. I'm now publishing a podcast every day. I'm doing a webinar every week. I'm doing 3 mastermind meetings every week. So that's 4 online meetings. So that's almost one a day a week, plus 1 podcast a day. That's me getting out there. Plus I go to networking events as well. So in total, if you add that up over a month, that's like, 25 meetings a month I'm getting. Plus, I have meetings outside of that. That's 25 meetings that, like this, presenting to people, networking with people, etc. 25 meetings a month. There's 20 working days in a month. That's more than one a day. That's what it takes to get an inbound traffic of networking. So now what happens is, people come to me. So I get emails now. People say, hey, look, I love what you do. I love your webinars. I love this podcast that you did. I read your book, whatever it is. Really enjoying the mastermind that I'm a member of. And they tell you about their story, and you really connect with these people because you've got this sort of shared spirit that all entrepreneurs have. There's an angle there where you can really see their story and your story connect and so on. And that's really powerful. That is powerful networking. You will not get that going to one networking event and handing out cards. Right? That will never happen. Okay, because your numbers, you need to hand out thousands of cards before you hit that one person, because it's just completely random. However, if you create this content and people through the internet find this content, they're looking for something, right? And they find you like a magnet, and they listen to your content, or they watch your content, or they read your content, and then they come to you, right? you know, that is very, very difficult to get in any kind of like offline networking event by going once a month, right? Because these people are coming to you, you've created this pipeline of networking that comes to you, and it's very, very powerful. And that's what you've got to do if you want to build a successful business, is create this pipeline where people can access you, come to you, interact with your story whilst you're not there, and so on. So here's some quick fire systems before we finish up tonight. Hopefully this was useful. Tips and techniques about networking. Hopefully, challenges you to think about networking differently, not just going to that one meetup a month, but you've got to be doing networking every day, right? You've got to be out there. So here's how you can do that every day. I'm going to give you some suggestions, right? Find a channel that works for you to share your story, and do that every day. Now, that channel could be a podcast, could be a video, could be writing, and it could be doing live events, live events in front of 10 people, okay, like in a hall somewhere in your hometown, right? Or speaking at somebody else's meetup, but just doing as much as you can, and just doing as much as you can. That is the key. Keep doing this. You will get really good at this in time, but it takes many, many, many tries to do this. Most people don't want to do this, right? And that's why most people aren't successful. As I said earlier, you got to do what most people won't, right? And most people won't do this. Most people would rather just tweet or paste something into Facebook, or post something onto Instagram, right? It's easy, and because it's easy, it has no value. It's the hard stuff that makes a huge impact, and that's how you can network. So find a channel that works for you and double down on that channel. But for me, what really works, podcasting, Founder FM. If you go to Founder FM, you have a look at my podcast. So I'll just name some of the people. These are the people I get to network through doing a radio show. So if you were to look at the homepage of founderfm.com, I'll share the link with you in a minute. Let's put this into the chat box here. Founderfm.com, which is the podcast that I run. I get to network with some amazing people. These people, like, for example, Julian Hahn, somebody who made $4 million in profit in his third year of business, or Anita Wing Lee, who gets over 6 million likes on her live streaming channel on Periscope, or Tim Fargo, who sold his business for $20 million, or I Ching Go, who grew PictoChart with no investment to 5 million users, and so on. These people are amazing. These people are inspirational. And the reason I can get access to these people is by networking through the podcast. I can approach these people and say, hey, look, I'm doing this radio show. I would love to have you on the radio show and share your story. And most people are like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll do that. That sounds like a lot of fun. And then you network with them. You talk to them. You learn about your story, their story. You create something with them, and they become your friends, right? And you have them in your network. Now, you can do that through audio, like I do, through podcast, or you can do that through video, or you can do that through writing blog posts, guest posts, or interviewing people through blog posts, and so on. Don't be afraid to approach these people. And this is how you can get some seriously successful people into your network. If there's somebody who you want to network with, there's somebody who maybe is a successful entrepreneur, and you would like to be friends with them, you think they could be a really good influence on you, but you're not sure how to approach them. You maybe feel that, why would they talk to me? They're successful, I'm just starting. A great way of doing it is to, like I do, go to these people and say, hey, look, I'm doing this. I want you to be part of it. And it works many times over, right? It's a successful formula. If you just go to these people and say, hey, look, I'm a beginner entrepreneur, you're successful, I'd like to have a meeting with you, chances are very small. But if you connect at the human level and say, hey, look, I'd like you to come and share your story with my network, a lot of people will say yes. So think about that. A great way to get really influential people into your network is to plant a flag and go approach these people and get these people to share their stories with your network. That's one way you can do this every day. If you keep doing it every day, you'll get some really influential people in your network in time. You will look back. I mean, if you have a look at the people on Founder FM, the last person that I interviewed on Founder FM, whose interview just came out this week and is right near the bottom of the page, is a guy who sold his last business for $100 million, right? Sam Marks. We had a great conversation. It was a great interview. I wouldn't normally get access to these people because they're so busy, so many people are approaching them. It's very noisy trying to get hold of these people. Everybody's trying to network with them. But if you go to them and say, hey, look, I'm doing this radio show or whatever it is that you do, I'd like you to be part of it and share your story. At first he said, I'm busy. A lot of people take that on. That's a knockback. When you approach a successful person, when you're networking, they say, I'm busy. Take that as a no, and they walk away and they never come back. When he said, I'm busy, I said, well, when would be a good time? And he said, well, why don't you contact me again in 2 months' time in October? I said, fine. I made a note and I contacted him in October. And when you follow up, your chances of success are very high because there's two reasons for that. Firstly, because you remembered and you followed up exactly at that time, they respect that. This person respects time. He's not going to waste your time, and he knows how to hold time, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing as well, a lot of successful people, when you're networking, tell you they're busy as a smokescreen, right? They say they're busy because they want to get rid of you, right? Because if they say you're busy, they're busy, and you go away and you don't come back, then you're a waste of time. But they say you're busy, you go away, you come back, they know that you're serious, right? So don't take no as an answer when it comes to networking. People saying they're busy or not right now, ask them when is a better time, right? So do something like podcasting, a video, whatever it is, but do it every day, and in time, in 6 months, in a year, you will have some very, very influential people in your network. As long as you find something that you're really passionate about and you plant your flag in that space. The second thing as well, quick fire suggestion is go to Starbucks, right? Go to Starbucks and make that your office. You will have so much better experience of meeting somebody at Starbucks than you will meeting them at their office, right? If somebody says to you, hey, look, let's have this meeting. Can you come to my office and do it? Chances are it's not going to be a good meeting. The reason is, there's two reasons why it won't be a great meeting. Firstly, it's because they haven't got off their arse to see you, so there's no sort of commitment on their side. And the second thing is it's in their territory. So they're in their comfort zone, they're king of the castle, queen of the castle, you're coming to them, there's no sort of meeting halfway, which will make a good experience. If you say, hey, look, real busy, can't meet you at your office, but there's a Starbucks just down here, how about meeting there for 30 minutes, right? If you met somebody at the Starbucks, you're going to have, a much, much better experience. So if you want to network, rather than go to that networking event, right, why don't you target one person and email that person, phone that person, whatever, next time you meet that person, say, hey, look, you want to have a quick coffee? I want to talk about this, okay? Chances are people may say they're busy. If that's the case, you know what to do based on the last conversation. Or they'll say yes, or they'll say no. So if they say yes, you've got them. Fantastic. That's a great way to network. What I do when it comes to networking, I don't go to people's offices, right? If somebody says, come to my office, I say, no, let's meet here, right? Let's not meet in the corporate environment. Go somewhere, meet at Starbucks, have a coffee. You will have a fantastic meeting with that person. So much better than going to some crappy networking event. Go to the crappy networking events for sure, but always have a goal and objective. Don't go to a networking event just to kind of learn, waste of your time. Go to a networking event with a goal, and that goal should be meet that person or whatever. Before you go to a networking event, here's a bit of advice that I'll give you. Never go to a networking event without preparing beforehand, right? And what I do, if I go to a networking event, I email the person that I want to meet and want to speak to and say, hey, John, I'm really looking forward to going to this networking event because I know you're going to be there. What I want to do is just have a quick chat with you about X, all right? And if we can have a chat about that, or maybe afterwards over a drink, that would be fantastic. And if he says yes, great. What I then do is I go for the last 30 minutes of the event and then talk to him afterwards. And that is far more effective than spending 2 hours just listening to people talking about crap and really random networking. So, when it comes to networking events, always go with a goal. Target people, email them before, and minimize your sort of random time at the networking event, because all that kind of, you can walk away with 20 cards, but waste of time. If you can get that one person, that's far more effective when it comes to networking. I will come to your questions in a minute, just as we round up here. And lastly, build your networks, build your relationships around people who have shared passions. This is so powerful, right? You have a passion in life. I don't know what your passion in life. It could be baking cakes. It could be astronomy. It could be fishing. It could be traveling the world. It could be Ironman triathlons. But whatever it is, your most powerful connections are people who have a shared interest with you, right? So use that as an opportunity to network with people. There used to be a time when executives did golf, but that got really sort of boring because it was like 6 hours on a Sunday going to golf. Not a lot of people really enjoyed it. That's how people used to network. And the reason why that used to be so successful, that was the only opportunity for many business people to step outside of the corporate world and see people in this sort of mobile, neutral environment. On a golf course, there was no sort of corporate signs, people weren't wearing suits and ties and so on. And that was an effective way of doing it. But now there's many other ways that you can network, right? Find people with a shared interest and really focus on these people and network within that group of people. You will find that it's so much easier, right? It's so much easier to open contacts. If I talk to somebody, my big thing is Ironman triathlon, right? If I find somebody who has done an Ironman, it's like we connect like that. And these people could own businesses worth 10 million, 100 million. And you can open the door so quickly with these people because you have that shared interest. Because at the end of the day, people connect with people at the emotional level. And if you've done an Ironman triathlon and you slaved away for 12 or 15 hours or whatever it is and did all that training, that guy who did 12 or 15 hours, slaved away for 6 months, a year, whatever it is, was obsessive about this hobby, will connect with you at an emotional level. So one of the most powerful ways to network is to find people with a shared interest, right? And really focus on that area, because you will find so many useful business contacts and people who will open doors for you and whatever. So my point is you may have a hobby and you may have a business and you may keep them separate. My suggestion is if you start trying to bring these things together, you will have so much more success. That is why people who build businesses on their hobbies are very successful and can maintain that energy long term, because they can open all these doors with the contacts that they have, right? So coming up, Q&A. I'm going to take a little break. My throat's been going for 45 minutes. Coming up for Q&A. If you have any questions, ask them in the chat box on the bottom left. So if you want to build your network, start building it with the Up.school Mastermind. We have a network of entrepreneurs like you who like tools of the Titans. Coming back to this book, right? This is all about who you know, and not only opening doors for people, but also sharing knowledge with you. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to two things. It comes down to knowledge that you can share between people. So if you have a network that can give you great ideas, challenge your ideas, open you to new ideas, and so on. And the network effect of having access to people who could open doors for you, help you with your business, partner with you, give you advice, and so on. That's why we created a mastermind, because for us entrepreneurs, Our challenge is that so often, even if we're in a business and we employ people, we're alone. That is the problem with being an entrepreneur. We're alone. This is a lonely business. We're not surrounded by lots and lots of entrepreneurs. We're surrounded by normal people, right? And normal people don't get it. That's why we have to create a network around us, a network of people who will lift us up, not people who will say, yes, but every time you tell them about your business, right? You know, I told you earlier about not selling to the unsold. Well, that's why you've got to create a network of people. People who are sold on this ideal piece of business, entrepreneurs who get it. You know, you tell them about your business, they get passionate about it because they love business. You know, when I hear people's business ideas, I love it because I absolutely love business and I love hearing about people starting businesses, people leaving comfortable jobs, people going it alone, people telling their boss to piss off and walking out and starting their business, whatever it is. I love all those stories because it shows people who are really determined to succeed in life no matter what normal people say. So check out the Upschool Mastermind. I'll send you a link after this so you can have a look at it. If that's something that you think might work for you, I think it would be a great way for you to look at how you can build your personal network. So thank you very much for your cooperation tonight. Let's go to the Q&A. So we've got a couple of questions in there. I said I'd finish this early, so maybe we can squeeze a couple of questions before we finish. Akos, off the bat, always in there with the first question. Thank you very much, Akos, for your participation. Always there with a good question to keep me on my toes. All right. Question for the end, Akos. How do you specifically turn your networking process into value? Do you make people to customers or coaching or consultancy, or it isn't the aim, rather that they will bring you customers from their network? Okay. You rarely get customers from networking directly. You can, for example, maybe if you're a consultancy, you know, if you're a coach, maybe you can do it that way. But I'm talking about in my personal experience. Usually what I get is referrals through the network. So people will recommend me to somebody else, or people will introduce somebody to me through their network. I think you have to not approach any particular contact with any specific aim like that. You know, so for example, I think what you should do is network with people because you like them, right? You network with people because they're useful and inspiring, and you know they have great stories to tell. You know, do you want to know this person? Do you want to, you know, build a relationship with this person? Do you want to, can you see yourself still being friends with this person in 10 years time, right? Would you want to share a beer or coffee with this person? You know, you have to think about all these questions. If it's yes, then you should network with them. Network with people because you like them, because they inspire you, because you know you feel that your relationship with this person can add value to you personally. All these kind of things. They then may become a customer. They then may become a business partner. They then whatever. That's secondary. But target interesting people first, right? Because you know networking is a constant process. If you aren't networking, you only have the same friends that you always ever had, and if you always have the same friends, you won't grow, right? A key part of networking is refreshing your network. You know, that is also a difficult thing for some people because when you make new friends, you lose old friends, right? But if you're an entrepreneur and you grow, you have to accept that you will lose friends along the way. That's going to happen whether you like it or not. And if you don't want to lose friends, you can't become a successful entrepreneur. You will lose the people that hold you back. And you have to replace those people with people that are going to lift you up and pull you forward. So to answer your question, Akos, about the process, target people who really interest you and inspire you. That should be your number one criteria priority. They will add value to your business somehow in all those different ways that I said. You know, don't go in and say, you know, I want to target this person because they might be a customer, or I want to target this person because whatever. You know, go in because they're inspirational. And you know, if they don't become a customer, if they don't become a business partner, they're still inspirational. And you still get some kind of value out of it. So that's the policy that I use in my networking. Hopefully that answers your question. But I think that's a so much better way of doing it. Treat networking like friendships, as opposed to just going out and trying to sell people all the time. Because yes, you can sell to people all the time, but you don't build relationships that way. I'm old enough to know that relationships are really valuable. I didn't know that at the beginning when I started out in business, and I wish I had known it when I started in business, right? And all the old guys kept saying, "Yeah, invest in relationships, invest." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And then I wish I had done. So there you go. All right, Vipul, hey there, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Some of the best connections I made were chance or maybe not encounters. Sat next to somebody on a plane, drinking at a bar on my own, stood next to a girl dressed as a tiger. Sounds interesting. Tell us more. I like that because it tells me that probably the reasons why you had really good connections with them was because there was no agenda. You didn't network with them because you wanted a client or a customer. You didn't network with them, whatever. You just networked with them because they were there. And because it's a chance encounter as well, it's, there's no context. It's just two people, and those sometimes can be great relationships, right? That's why, for example, going to networking events, sometimes it's like really structured, right? You know what people are going to do. They're going to tell you about your business. They're going to tell you about their business. You're going to tell them about your business. Follow-on question, follow-on question. Maybe you talk about their wife and their kids and that kind of thing. Exchange a card, next person, right? It's a formula and it's boring. It doesn't work. That's why, some of the best connections are made in random, unexpected circumstances, right? So completely agree with you. Same with me, yeah, more natural. I mean, this whole cards thing, I don't understand. I'm here in Japan, and cards are a really big part of the business process. But the problem with exchanging cards is that you create a dynamic. It's an expected procedure within networking. I don't exchange cards. I try not to exchange cards because if I like somebody and I want to network with that person, like these chance encounters that you talk about, we'll make friends, right? And friendship is the basis of all good business. So it's friends first and business later. If I exchange a card with somebody, what's that going to do? It's not going to make that person a better friend with me, right? So I think, what you're talking about is key here in the networking is not to go down this formal route of networking, exchanging cards, all that kind of nonsense. Instead, make natural connections, make friendships. Like with Akos's point as well, don't target people for specific reasons. Make friendships first. I think great business will come out of that, right? When I started in business 20 years ago, I used to think that friendship and business were quite separate. And I used to think that you should never be friends with people in business and all that kind of stuff. And I was very sort of brutal with my relationships in business. I was a hard salesperson. As I said, I used to do like 100 calls a day, that kind of thing. And then I went out and did door-to-door sales. I was a hardcore salesperson, and that works. But the problem is that as soon as you sell to that person, you get no more business out of them. That's the last time you see them. You can't build a business that way. I wasn't interested in any kind of friendships with these people. I was just interested in sell, 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 sell. And that was it, right? But that can get you results. But those people don't buy again from you. They don't repeat business. And what happens is your business goes up and then it goes down. And it's really, really hard to maintain that business and that energy level. I wish I had invested in friendships. Those times when customers said to me, "Hey, let's meet up and go for a coffee," and I said, "No, I'm too busy." I should have said yes. I should have said yes. Let's go for a coffee or let's go for a beer or whatever. Because if I did that, I could have created a relationship, and that person would have been a powerful relationship in a network for me. They would open doors for me, referred people to my business, and I would enjoy business so much more. But then you live and learn, don't you? All right, Akos, question 2. As a beginner who would like to learn from other entrepreneurs, do you need to offer some value for them for their help, or at least is it easier to connect with them like this? If yes, how to figure out what value you could offer? All right, so this is a good question. If you're a beginner, how can you network with people who are more successful than you, more experienced than you? Why would they want to network with you? All those kind of questions. That's sort of the doubt that any beginner has, right? You feel the word we use in English is imposter. There's this sort of there's this syndrome that entrepreneurs have, which is called the imposter syndrome, which basically, I'll just write it in here in case I don't know if this word translates very well, but it basically means that, you know, you get this, uh, you get this feeling like, why am I here? You know, how did I get in here? Like, I'm kind of inside this group and I shouldn't be in this group. I sort of kind of like lied my way into this group, or I don't belong here because they maybe find out that I'm just a beginner, that type of thing. That's the kind of thing that many entrepreneurs have, this imposter syndrome, is they feel like they're an imposter in this world of successful business people. They're surrounded by successful people and they're like the beginner. Why do they want me here, right? So that's a very common doubt that entrepreneurs face. So let's talk about that now. How do you deal with it? So if you're a beginner, what value do you offer an experienced entrepreneur such that they would want to network with you? Well, if you come in at the level business to business, it ain't going to work because they will soon learn that you don't have a lot to offer them in business, right? And probably, if anything, you will take a lot from them of time and that kind of thing. So if you come in at the business level, that ain't going to work. What you have to do is try and build friendships at the personal level. It's really important as a beginner, right? And you have to connect with these people. There's some way that you can connect with people, right? And that may be a shared interest, it may be a shared goal, and maybe a shared passion or whatever it is, a shared worldview. You have to connect at that level, and that's how you're going to connect with people. Because at the end of the day, you know, these people have these interests just like you. You know, I talked about the Iron Man example, but you know, you can easily connect with people at that kind of level, right? So that's one way of doing it. Is find that shared interest and connect with people at that level. Um, the second way is that, you know, one of the challenges that successful entrepreneurs have, or any kind of entrepreneur has, is that, you know, it's kind of lonely, and there's nobody to justify, or to, what's the word I'm looking for? There's nobody to um, who will basically say, yeah, well done, you've been very successful, because there isn't any of that as an entrepreneur. If you're in a business, if you're like an employee, you get promoted, you get rewards, all that kind of thing. But if you're an entrepreneur, there's none of that, right? So if you're successful, nobody knows, nobody gives a shit as well. But if you're a beginner, you can be that person who can help that person realize that they're successful, right? There's that kind of ego thing as well. It's like, hey, look, you know, you can, um, that person will want to be in a sort of a mentor-mentee type relationship, that kind of thing. That always exists. That's a way for beginner entrepreneurs to get in with successful people, is that to hang around them, be that kind of mentee type person, learn from them and so on. And maybe that appeals to that entrepreneur. Maybe they like having, you know, beginner entrepreneurs around them because they feel successful if they can share their knowledge and experience with that person, right? So that's one thing that you can do. You can set yourself out as sort of to learn, understudy under that person. But you have to offer some kind of value back. You know, you're not going to offer any kind of business value to them because, you know, you're a beginner. You don't have much to offer. But what you do have is time, and you do have ideas and so on. So um, this interview that I just did on Founder FM with Sam Marks, the guy who sold his business for $100 million, he said that his model of success is this. One of the things he does is find a successful person and understudy them, learn with that person. So what he did was he would find somebody who was really successful in a certain field and say to them, hey, look, you know, I know you're really successful. I'm just starting out. What I want to do is work with you. If I work with you, I'll do this for you. You know, I can do your website, I can do your whatever, I can that kind of thing. But I want to learn from you, right? And that's a really good way to get access to successful people. So, and as a beginner, you've got more chance than an experienced entrepreneur, right? Because they'll look at you and say, hey, okay, right, I can see that you're starting out. I'll help you out here, right? So understudy is a great way to network. I used to do that when I started in real estate investment. I was like 30 years old, maybe just before 30 years old when I started out in real estate investment in London. and there were a lot of big real estate investors. These guys were like 50 years old. These guys were worth a lot of money, and they owned hundreds of properties. So I didn't own anything at the time. I was thinking, how can I network with these guys? So I did two things to network with them. The first one is I understudied with them. So I went to one guy and said, hey, look, you've got this really successful business. I know now that you're trying to sell your content online. You're trying to teach real estate investment to people. He was an old guy, didn't really know much about internet. This was like, we're going back to 2000, right, at the time. So 1998 even, I can't remember. So yeah, so people didn't know about the internet, and I said I can help you get online, I can help you do all this stuff. Just want to kind of learn a little bit about your business and how you do it. And that was a fantastic experience for me, understudy under this person. I didn't get paid for it, but I learned so much value in working with that person. And I would work maybe once a week with that guy, half a day. But that is the best investment of my time that I ever did. The second thing I did is I, without having any experience, I set up a radio show in property investment. After about a year doing that, I set up a radio show, and I went because I networked with this guy and understudied under him. I started to know all the people that he knew, right? So what he was doing was he's creating this website of all this real estate investment, and he knew a lot of people who were also real estate investors, and he was putting all their content onto his website. And I always have to do that for him. So I would have to talk to these guys. So I'd get to talk to all these real estate investors and interview them and so on. So I got to meet all these people because I was just a young guy, right? Just starting out, and I was doing the interviewing thing. I thought, wow, I could really do this. So I started my own radio show, and then I went out back to all these people that I interviewed before and started interviewing them, getting content for my radio show. So first thing I did was understudy, and then I planted a flag, created my own radio show. I didn't wait for anybody to pick me. I didn't wait for anybody to say that you have authority or you have permission to do this. I just picked myself and went ahead and did the radio show. I think it's a great way to network, and it worked for me. And fantastic way for me to build my real estate business without having any experience whatsoever. So if I can do it, you can do it. You just have to get creative. Find somebody you can understudy with. Dedicate some time for that, and then try and get yourself up that ladder and try and plant a flag and build a network around that. So hopefully that was useful information for you this evening. If you are a mastermind member, what I will do is I will put this video onto the up.school mastermind so you can watch it later on. It'll be there tomorrow. Everybody else, thanks for joining tonight. I will send you a link tomorrow, which will have some more information, follow up about what we talked about today, follow up, help you build your network. No meeting next week, unfortunately. I'm taking a break, got a few days off. I won't be here next week, but we're back the week after that. We're back with a new platform. We're back with new content. So hopefully see you in 2 weeks' time. All right, guys, I wish you all a fantastic day, fantastic evening, wherever you are in the world. And been great with your questions. Thank you so much for challenging me, and thank you so much for sharing your time, because I know you're busy people, but this is what it's all about, is coming here, sharing our time together and trying to make a good go of it, this adventure. It's called business. All right, guys, thank you so much. See you in the next one.